Back with your weather co-op updates. We're going to do some current conditions across the nation. Even though it's a pretty quiet night, I still want to get into those temperatures overnight because they're actually pretty nice, okay? I am telling you now, it is going to get colder by next week, so take it all in right now and enjoy these really mild conditions. Okay, so we're going to do some current conditions across the nation. We're going to take a quick look at our sat rad loop, and then we're going to go look at our wind speeds, things of that nature. Okay, so right now we're seeing very mild conditions for much of the nation. We're going to start off with Wichita, 61 degrees. Oklahoma City, 71. Little Rock, 65. Omaha, 56. Sioux Falls, 46. Minneapolis, even you're nice and warm tonight, 52. Bismarck, 37. 46 for Rapid City. Thermopolis, 39. Billings, 40. Whitebird, 43. Hello to everybody in Redding and Boise, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, Amarillo, 56. Dallas at 74. Little Rock, 65. Memphis, 63. Nashville, 57. Louisville, 61. Indianapolis, 64. Chicago also seeing 64. And we're seeing mainly 50s and 60s across much of the East Coast, at least through the Mid-Atlantic. It's pretty nice all in all. Okay, so this is a look at our national temperature currently. All right, so that is not too bad. Now, as we move ahead and take a look at our 2-hour sat rad loop, and remember, I've had this set to Central Daylight Time because the angle's actually pointing to the middle of the country. I know I get super detailed with these, but oftentimes I find that you're not given enough information, like the public, especially when it comes to weather. Like, you're supposed to take our word as bond, and this is what we're giving you, and this is why, and etc., and back to you type of deal. It's not what I do here. I want to give you guys a really good idea of what the weather is, especially in light of situations like Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. We're going to get more of these. We're going to get some really strong winter storms. So this is just prepping you. You guys can always ask me some really detailed questions. I'm more than happy to help you. It looks like we have, hey, somebody's up with me. All right. We love when people are up with us. Okay. That's what we're talking about. Wake up, stay up with Weather Go Up. We don't sleep. We don't sleep because the weather doesn't sleep, and it really doesn't. And as a matter of fact, you're going to see a really good future cast for those of you if you happen to be in Russia and have friends in Russia. Okay, so quiet, right? Do you see these these clouds just moving through parts of the Pacific Northwest into parts of the Intermountain West and down through portions of the plains and then up through the Great Lakes region? Little bit of moisture there because honestly the only moisture we saw today was really contained to the Great Lakes Upper Peninsula, and you can see that. Do you see that mid-level trough right above the Great Lakes? Do you see there's like a little bit of yellow there? Let me zoom in. Okay, that's what was digging on down from Canada. It was what we refer to as moisture deficient. So it wasn't anything to write home about as far as any showers, but we did see some scattered showers for parts of those of you in that region. A story that I do think is intriguing is over here across portions of the Northeast tri-state area. Those are fire weather concerns. So those are special weather statements issued by the National Weather Service. Generally speaking, they issue those because they're seeing it's going to be very dry and it's going to be windy and gusty at times. Those conditions, if there's a brush fire, can absolutely be prime for wildfires, for brush fires to really take off. Now, you see the state of Connecticut, which is my home state, has a fire weather warning issued, and that is in effect until 7 p.m. Wednesday. So it's 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. local time Wednesday. The winds are going to be strong and relative humidity will be low. Now, 40%, that's generally low, especially for this time of the year, but something you want to keep in mind. Okay, so like I said, we mainly have really nice conditions. Wait, what is this doing? No, this is not what I want to do. We have very nice conditions for the most part. Okay, so as we zoom out here, I'm going to show you a few items here that I showed you earlier. Those are remnants of Oscar. Do you see that right there? Cuba, I'm so sorry for those of you who have family and friends in Cuba. For those of you who might be watching from can't say from Cuba, who have access from Cuba. We definitely are sharing our hearts with you and our prayers. So far, 7 fatalities, and they are in the dark. This is another story. Hurricane Christy, expected to become a major hurricane, but right now she's a category 1, not very strong at all. You know, what's interesting about Christy is that she's going to keep moving her way through the Pacific. And some people want to say, well, it's not going to make landfall, so why do we care? We care because if you look to the north and to the west, and then later on when I show you what's happening over Russia, you're going to be like, oh, over Asia, you're going to be like, oh, I get it. I see what's happening here. Okay, these are all, do you see how these are all connected, right? Do you see this? So these are all kind of just chit-chatting with each other. Hey, is there a low coming through? Is there a storm? Think of the weather as like, the oceans, I always say, talk to each other. I just think that's always an interesting way to put it because, you know, we're not exclusive to just the Pacific or the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic, right? It's not, we have other bodies of water that we're impacted by. Okay, so that is what's happening. A quick and dirty outlook. Boom. All right, let's take a look at our current weather conditions again. Pretty quiet. Lots of 40s, lots of 50s, some 60s, and even some 70s. And our wind profile, a little bit stronger for those of you across Minnesota. We're seeing Minneapolis at 15 miles per hour. Des Moines seeing some stronger winds at 11 miles per hour. Dallas currently 10 mile per hour wind speeds. And I'll try to zoom in a little bit. I know it's a little messy there, but I want to include as many cities as I can. 10 mile per hour wind speeds in Green Bay. Detroit 8, Indianapolis 9, and we're missing Boston, New York 3 miles per hour. Calm winds in Baltimore. Denver, calm winds as well. Salt Lake City, 6 miles per hour. San Francisco, 3, and calm winds in Los Angeles. Our current wind direction, this tells us a really good story because what we're seeing is like this kind of variance in the wind profile. Now, we're under a ridge of high pressure, okay? That's pretty much what most of the nation is being uh, guided by, right? Like this ridge of high pressure locking everything in. Now it's a strong one. It's going to keep conditions above normal. So anywhere between like 10 to 20 degrees above normal for the next couple of days. And it's going to kind of just steer any other weather off. Okay. So just keep that in mind because by the end of the week, we're going to see this little clipper come down. It's going to impact the Intermountain West. And that is going to be like a little signal because then there's another storm out in the Pacific and that one's going to be coming through. Okay. That's going to be a good story coming up. Current dew points, we're seeing lots of 20s, 30s, 40s, and even some 50s and 60s. Dallas at 60, Houston at 60, New Orleans at 60, Oklahoma City at 60, along with Jacksonville. Now, here is where things start to get oh so spicy, okay? As my aunt says, I'm 5 feet of spice. So this is where things start to get spicy. We're going to look quickly at everything across the nation. We're even going to tap into portions of the Pacific and the Atlantic, right? So you get a really good view here. You're even looking at portions of, like you're looking into Alaska as well, Canada. You're seeing everything happen, just one quick snapshot. Now, as I move this forward, I'm going to zoom on out and I'm going to bring this over to Christy. Currently, max sustained wind speeds at 80 miles per hour. We went over this earlier. You can see central pressure, 983 millibars. It's going to become a major hurricane only because it will hit category 4. And then it's going to, eventually fizzle out. But I do see that this storm that's hovering at that point, like in the central Pacific, that's going to be something that will tap into some more moisture. So guys, keep an eye out for that. And I'll show you why in a moment, okay? So we talked about this earlier. Here is that upper level low that's going to cut down. It's a little clipper, it moves on down. It cuts across like the Intermountain West, moves through portions of the plains, and then continues to move eastward. And I think that's a very small system, but some of you might be impacted because you're like, oh my gosh, this is 8 a.m. on Thursday. I was just trying to get to school. I was just trying to get to work. And then you might encounter a bit of a changeover. I highly doubt it unless you're at a higher elevation, simply because there's just too much warm air. And oftentimes people will say, well, Erica, how do you know there's enough cold air at the surface? Because there might be just this little pocket, what we refer to as a planetary boundary layer. Like that'll be this little pocket of air. It's lower level of the surface of the atmosphere that sometimes can be enough to be cold to switch the precip type over. That is not likely here, okay? If we see a quick precip, like it'll be like a quick changeover to maybe some sleet and then back. It's warm right now, okay? We're going to need another blast of cold air, another punch of cold air to just stabilize that cold air and then keep us moving in that cold air type of weather pattern, okay? But I'm going to keep going here and we're going to keep on chugging along. Thursday, 7 p.m. and look at see that low? Do you see how now it's moving through the Midwest, right? It's moving across Minnesota. It's moving across Missouri. It's moving across Iowa. It's moving in, it's just moving across the Midwest. And you see how it's really not organized at all. It's just kind of messy. It's a little sloppy. And we're still not seeing any type of wintry precip because this week we're still dealing with mainly warmer conditions. So take advantage of that. I mean, this is going to be above normal temperatures. It's going to be a pretty decent week for everybody. Just enjoy. This is the last hurrah. Well, if you will, maybe just one more hurrah. This could be one more hurrah and then you're done. But see the storm that we've been tracking for the past couple of hours? Do you see how now it's being introduced into the Pacific Northwest? Okay, so in a moment, you're going to see how these are all connected into what's happening over in Asia, what's happening across the Eastern Pacific, Central Pacific, Western Pacific. These things all these things just are connected, right? So here we're like Eastern Pacific, then we just move and migrate west and we're like Central Pacific and then we migrate some more. And that's just how this all pans out, but we've got to look at it all. Okay. So then there's that same trough, that same little system. Now it's moving through like the Appalachians and then like upstate New York, like Adirondacks, and then it'll just move on and keep on moving. Okay. There's a little system that's touch and go in the Gulf, but that system over that's going to kick into the Pacific Northwest, that one is a very this is a good one because it's going to start signaling a lot more moisture, I believe, and this is going to be where we'll start to see a little bit of a change up. And then if you notice, if you look down, do you see that now at that point Christy would have been a category 1? This is Saturday at 1 a.m. All right. So this is a good one. All right, this is where things start to get really good. And now we're looking at how everything moves along. So now we're moving through portions of Europe, up and across. Look at this. It's getting so good here. Look what's happening here. Do you see all this weather that's migrating from west to east? Do you see this? This is getting interesting. This now tells me there's a lot of activity happening in the atmosphere. Those are going to be moving into our direction, generally speaking. Weather works from west to east. I've said this to you so many times. Sometimes there'll be some different situations, but those we would take those as those come. But this is just to me a nice signal that things are starting to just be a lot more dynamic. Okay. So that's what we'll often call it, just like a more dynamic atmosphere. And so now we have to pay a lot more attention. Not that we don't anyway, but to the precip type. That's where we're just like, okay, we're going to want to start looking at those punches of cold air. Could that possibly change something over? If so, at how many feet? Like, what's our snow level? Is it like 8,000 feet? Is it 5,000 feet? Is it 2,500 feet? What is this? What's happening now? So this is when our snow levels start to just dip and dip and dip, right? Good thing there. So this is a quick update on what's happening actually across the globe. I gave you guys a quick like global outlook. In the northern hemisphere, guys, I will get to the southern hemisphere. I always try to, especially because we have Anna, who's like from Australia. I have a good friend Vanjie, who's from Australia. Tracy, who does our financial updates, is from Australia. Simon, who manages the space, is from. It's like this is like little Australia. It's so awesome. So, that's what we have for now. Guys, I'm meteorologist Erica Martin. I do hope you enjoyed this update, and I hope you see how wonderful these weather patterns are. They're so exciting, especially when you start to see these little signals here and there. It's like, oh, I get it now. I'm seeing this. So we're going to go over these conditions over the next couple of days and kind of show you where the weather is coming from, where it's going towards, and just keep you in the loop. All right. It's always here about your weather and your community. And just because you're here, you might be from, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. You might want some weather updates. That's exactly what we do here for you. And I'm so excited for you guys to download the app. And I'm really excited for you guys to join us always across all of our platforms at Weather Co-op. Once again, I'm certified broadcast meteorologist Erica Martin, Weather Ready Nation ambassador, Skywarden storm spotter, and a dog mom. And I am so excited. And I might be adopting a cat. Yeah. I might be getting this cat that I saw. Tell me if you think it's a good idea. Okay, so it's this cat. Really, hon, this is an aside. So it's a cat that apparently I just found out this person in our neighborhood just left. Like, just left it. Left it. I couldn't even believe it. Left it, and our friend in the building told us about this cat. So this cat had been following me, and I was really scared, and I'd run away from it. And finally, I warmed up to it and started leaving it milk. And I found out that it's like homeless. Like, it doesn't have a house. There is, like, we feed it, we leave like a bed for it, but I'm actually thinking I might want to adopt it or rescue it. So I've got to convince the mister and the dog, Chloe. So if they're convinced, I will absolutely move ahead with this. But in the meantime, I digress. I had to share. I'm meteorologist Erica Martin.